The great hall of Concordia Prime was silent. 12 species sat around the circular table, their faces showing fear. Some had scales, some had feathers, and some had skin that glowed in the dim light. They were the Galactic Council, rulers of 10,000 worlds across the stars. Today, they gathered because something terrible was coming. Ambassador Lyria of the Xanthari stood first. Her blue skin shimmered as she spoke. Council members, we have lost another system. The Vrexel swarm has consumed the Talara colonies. 3 billion souls are gone. A heavy silence fell over the room. 3 billion lives erased in less than a week. Commander Varax of the Korthian Empire slammed his fist on the table. His red armor made a loud bang. This cannot continue. We are the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. How can we not stop these monsters? A small creature with 6 eyes spoke next. Dr. Quinn of the Quillians was the chief scientist. The Vrexel are unlike anything we have faced. They learn from every battle. What destroys them once will never work again. They adapt in hours, sometimes minutes. The hologram in the center of the table showed the swarm. Dark ships, thousands of them, moving like insects through space. They consumed everything in their path. Planets, stations, even stars seemed to dim where they passed. How did they come to our space? Asked a Xanthari elder. Where did they originate? Dark space, Dr. Quinn said. Beyond our mapped territory. They appeared 6 months ago at the edge of the outer rim. Since then, they have taken 47 systems. 47 systems. The number hung in the air like smoke. At the far end of the table, almost hidden in shadow, sat a human. Ambassador Chen of Earth wore a simple black uniform. She had been quiet through the entire meeting, watching and listening. Her dark eyes moved from speaker to speaker, missing nothing. The other species rarely looked at her. Humans were new to the council, barely 200 years as members. More importantly, humans were feared. Commander Vrax remembered the first contact with humans. He had been young then, a captain in the Korthian fleet. His people had discovered Earth and assumed the primitive world would welcome advanced civilization. They had been very wrong. The humans fought back with a fury that shocked everyone. Their ships were smaller, their weapons weaker, but they fought like cornered animals. No, worse than animals. They fought with intelligence, rage, and something the Korthians had never seen before. They called it desperation. The Korthian fleet had nearly lost that battle. A treaty was signed quickly. Humans could join the council, but they must stay in their sector. Their military would be limited. Their expansion would be controlled. The council remembered that humans came from a death world, a planet with harsh gravity, dangerous weather, and deadly creatures. Humans evolved to survive anything. We call them Death Worlders, the Quillians had said. They are too dangerous. So humans were kept in a small corner of the galaxy like wolves in a cage. Now Ambassador Chen cleared her throat. The sound was quiet, but every head turned. Yes, Ambassador, Lyria said, her voice cold. I have been reviewing your battle reports, Chen said. Her voice was calm, almost flat. You are losing because you fight with pattern and logic. The swarm learns your patterns. And humans would do differently. A Korthian admiral laughed, but there was no humor in it. You barely have a fleet. You have been restricted for 2 centuries. Chen smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Yes, restricted, I remember. The tension in the room grew thicker. No one wanted to discuss the human question. Not now, not ever. The meeting continued. Battle plans were discussed. Fleet movements were calculated. Scientists presented new weapons, new shields, new strategies. All of it sounded desperate. Then the alarm rang. Red lights flashed across the hall. The hologram changed. A new image appeared, and the room fell into shocked silence. Korthos Prime was burning. The Korthian homeworld, the fortress planet with shields that could stop a star's blast, was under attack. The Vrexel swarm covered the planet like a dark cloud. The planetary shields flickered and died. Cities below started to go dark. No, Commander Vrax whispered. No, that's impossible. But they all watched it happen. The strongest military world in the galaxy was falling. Distress calls came through the speakers, screaming for help, for reinforcements, for anything. Then the call stopped. Korthos Prime went silent. 8 billion Korthians lived on that world. Now there was only static. Commander Vrax fell to his knees. Other Korthians in the room made sounds of grief and rage. The other council members sat frozen, unable to process what they had witnessed. If Korthos Prime could fall, Anywhere could fall. We need to mobilize everything, Lyria said, her voice shaking. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. It won't be enough, Dr. Quinn said quietly. Our projections show a 97% probability of defeat within 6 months if we continue current strategies. Then what do we do? Shouted someone from across the table. Surrender? Run? Where would we even go? Ambassador Chen stood up. She walked to the hologram and studied the image of the swarm. Her face showed no emotion, but her hands were behind her back, fingers tight. You need something unpredictable, she said. Something that doesn't follow your rules of civilized warfare. Commander Vrax looked up at her. His eyes were red with tears, but something else was in them now. A dangerous thought. No, said Lyria firmly. We will not discuss this. Discuss what? Asked a younger council member. The human option, Vrax said slowly. The room erupted. Voices rose in argument. Some shouted in fear, others in anger. They are too dangerous. We can't control them. They don't follow any laws of war. They are barbarians. Chen stood quietly through all of it. When the shouting died down, she spoke one more time. You are right about all of those things, she said. We are dangerous. We are hard to control. We don't fight clean. But ask yourselves this. Do you want to survive? She looked around the table, meeting each pair of eyes. The Vrexul are coming for all of you. Your weapons don't work. Your tactics fail. Your strongest world just fell. So you have a choice to make. She walked toward the door, then paused. Keep losing with honor or win with monsters. Either way, my people will survive. We always do. The door closed behind her. The council members sat in the emergency chamber, surrounded by fear and the weight of an impossible decision. Outside the station's windows, space looked peaceful and full of stars. But everyone knew the darkness was coming. Commander Vrax stood slowly. He looked at the others. We need to vote, he said. Not today. We need time to think. But soon. Before it's too late. The meeting ended without a decision. The council members left quietly, each carrying the same terrible thought. Maybe, just maybe, they needed to unleash the humans. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you backed humans into a corner. The galaxy was about to learn what a Death World species could really do when the chains came off. Ambassador Chen walked through the empty corridor back to the human quarters. She touched her communicator. Earth Command, she said quietly. Start preparing the fleet. They'll call soon. In the darkness of space, the Vrexul swarm continued its advance. It did not know that something was about to change. It did not know that the galaxy had one last option, and that option was waking up. 3 weeks passed since Korthos Prime fell. The Galactic Council mobilized the largest military force in recorded history. Ships from 100 worlds gathered at the rally point near the Zirion Nebula. The fleet stretched across space like a river of metal and light. Commander Vrax stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Eternal Strength. He looked at the display showing thousands of friendly ships. Korthian warships with their heavy armor, Centauri cruisers with advanced shields, Quillian science vessels with experimental weapons. Even the peaceful species had sent their defenders. This has to work, Vrax said to his tactical officer. We have superior technology. Superior numbers. We must succeed. The tactical officer nodded, but Vrax saw doubt in his eyes. The first battle happened at the Meridian system. The Council fleet jumped in with perfect formation. Their ships moved like dancers, each one knowing its place. It was beautiful and terrifying. The Vrexul swarm came to meet them. Dark ships emerged from the planet's shadow, thousands of them moving like a swarm of insects. They had no formation, no pattern. They just came forward in a wave of darkness. All ships, open fire, Vrax commanded. Space lit up with weapons fire. Plasma cannons burned through Vrexul ships. Quantum missiles destroyed clusters of enemy vessels. The Quillian scientists had created new particle beams that cut through the swarm like knives. For the first hour, the Council forces were winning. Vrexul ships fell by the hundreds. The commanders allowed themselves to feel hope. Then the swarm adapted. The same weapons that had destroyed Vrexul ships moments before now barely damaged them. The dark ships changed their hulls, shifted their shields, and altered their formations. What had worked perfectly now failed completely. Impossible, shouted the Quillian scientist on the comm. They're evolving in real time. Their ships are part biological, part artificial intelligence. They learn instantly. The battle turned. Vrexul ships surrounded Council vessels and tore them apart. The beautiful formation broke. Ships scattered in panic. Retreat, Vrax ordered. Fall back to the secondary position. The Council fleet withdrew, leaving behind 200 destroyed ships and 30,000 dead. Over the next month, battles raged across 6 systems. Each time, the same pattern repeated. Council forces would attack with new tactics and new weapons. They would succeed briefly. Then the Vrexel would adapt and the Council forces would lose. In the war room on Concordia Prime, Dr. Quinn showed projections on a holographic display. The lines and numbers painted a terrible picture. They learn from every encounter, Quinn explained. Their biological components process information like a brain. Their AI components calculate and adjust instantly. Together they are unstoppable. There must be something we can do, Lyria said. Some weakness we can exploit. We've tried everything, Quinn said quietly. Quantum weapons, gravitational disruptors, electromagnetic pulses, even biological agents. They adapt to all of it within hours. The Zenthari tried diplomacy next. If weapons failed, perhaps communication would succeed. They sent their finest ambassadors on a peaceful vessel. The ship had no weapons, only communication arrays. It broadcast messages of peace in every known language. The Vrexel response was swift and brutal. The swarm surrounded the diplomatic ship and consumed it. 10,000 Zenthari souls disappeared in minutes. The Vrexel sent no reply, no acknowledgement. They simply ate and moved on. Lyria wept when she heard the news. They cannot be reasoned with. They do not want territory or resources. They only want to consume. The war continued. System after system fell. Refugees flooded the inner worlds. Billions of beings fled their homes carrying whatever they could. Space stations overflowed with the displaced and the desperate. On Concordia Prime, Ambassador Chen watched from the observation deck. She saw the refugee ships arriving, saw the fear in every face. She made notes on her tablet, studying battle reports and tactical data that the Council shared with all members. She noticed patterns in how the Vrexel attacked. She saw how they learned and adapted. Most importantly, she saw how the Council fought with logic, with order, with predictable military doctrine. They fight like machines, she muttered to herself. Perfect and predictable. No wonder they're losing. A shadow fell across her tablet. Commander Vrax stood beside her. The proud Korthian warrior looked older now. He had lost his homeworld, lost hundreds of ships, lost thousands of soldiers. You've been watching our battles, Vrax said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Chen replied. What do you see? Chen looked at him carefully. I see brave people fighting with honor, following the rules of civilized warfare, protecting civilian populations, avoiding unnecessary destruction, and I see you losing. Vrax was quiet for a long moment. He looked out at the refugee ships. 200 years ago I fought against your kind, he said. I was young and confident. We thought we would easily defeat Earth. We were wrong. I know, Chen said. I studied that battle. Required reading at the academy. Your people fought like nothing we had ever seen. No pattern, no predictability. You sacrificed ships to save others. You rammed our vessels when you ran out of ammunition. You used tactics we considered insane. We call it survival, Chen said. Vrax turned to face her. I hated humans after that battle. I thought you were monsters, dangerous animals that needed to be caged. I supported the restrictions on your military. Past tense? Chen asked. I watched Korthos Prime die, Vrax said, his voice breaking slightly. My family was there. My children. The shields I thought were impenetrable failed. The weapons I thought were unstoppable broke. Everything I believed was proven wrong. He looked directly at Chen. We need monsters to fight monsters. Don't we? Chen didn't answer immediately. She looked at her tablet at the data showing the swarm's advance. Yes, she finally said. But are you ready for what that means? Once you unleash us, you can't take it back. We won't fight your way. We won't follow your rules. You'll win, but you might not like how we do it. I don't care about liking it anymore, Vrax said. I care about surviving. That night, Vrax called a secret meeting. Only the senior military commanders and the top council members attended. The room was small and secure. Vrax stood before them. We are losing this war. Current projections show total defeat within 4 months. The swarm will reach our core worlds, including this station. We will all die, no one argued. Everyone had seen the numbers. I propose we lift the military restrictions on humanity, Vrax continued. We deploy them against the Vrexel. The room exploded. Voices rose in anger and fear. They're too dangerous. They'll turn on us after the Vrexel are gone. We can't trust them. A Zenthari elder stood up. They don't follow any civilized conventions of warfare. They use biological weapons. They target civilian infrastructure. They don't take prisoners. How can we unleash such barbarians? Vrax let them shout. When they grew quiet, he spoke again. Everything you say is true. Humans are dangerous. Humans are unpredictable. Humans fight in ways we consider barbaric. But answer me this. The Vrexel adapt to logic, to efficiency, to patterns. What if we throw chaos at them? What if we use tactics so insane that they can't predict them? That's madness, someone said. Yes, Vrax agreed. Human madness. But it might be our only chance, Dr. Quinn spoke up. From a strategic standpoint, Commander Vrax is correct. The swarm adapts to rational tactics. Irrational tactics might confuse their learning algorithms. The debate continued for hours. Memories of the first human contact were shared. Stories of human warfare were told. Their history was violent and bloody. Humans had fought each other for thousands of years before reaching the stars. They knew war in ways that peaceful species could never understand. Finally, a vote was called. The numbers appeared on the screen. 7 in favor, 5 against. The motion passed by the smallest margin in council history. Lyria, who had voted against it, stood with tears in her eyes. May the ancestors forgive us for what we are about to do. Ambassador Chen was summoned. She entered the room calmly, her face showing no emotion. The council has voted, Vrax said. We are lifting the military restrictions on humanity. We request your assistance against the Vrexel swarm. Chen looked around the room at all the scared faces. If we do this, there's no going back, she said. We won't fight your way. We'll use weapons you consider illegal. We'll employ tactics you call war crimes. We'll do things that will give you nightmares. But we'll win. Can you promise victory? Lyria asked. No, Chen said honestly. But I can promise we'll make the Vrexel regret coming here. And we'll never surrender, never. That's what humans do. We survive. She pulled out her secure communicator and activated a restricted channel. Earth Command, this is Ambassador Chen. Authorization code Omega Black. They've approved it. Wake up the fleet. It's time to go to war. Somewhere in the Sol system, lights began turning on. Ships that had been dormant for 2 centuries started powering up their engines. The human war machine was awakening. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity had been building in secret. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you unleashed the wolves. The Vrexel swarm continued advancing, unaware that something new was coming. Something that didn't follow any rules. Something human. The human fleet arrived at the staging area 1 week after the authorization. The council observers watched the monitors and felt confused. These are their warships? A Zenthari officer asked. The human vessels looked nothing like council ships. Where council vessels were sleek and symmetrical, human ships were brutal and asymmetric. They had odd angles, strange protrusions, and weapons mounted in places that made no tactical sense. Some ships looked like they were built from scrap metal. Others had designs that seemed deliberately ugly. They don't even match each other, Dr. Quinn observed. Different sizes, different configurations. No standardization. Admiral Sarah Kowalski arrived on Concordia Prime to meet with the council commanders. She was a tall woman with gray hair tied back tightly. Her uniform was simple and worn. She had scars on her face and hands that told stories of past battles. Commander Vrax greeted her formally. Admiral Kowalski, welcome. We are grateful for your assistance. Kowalski looked at him with cold eyes. Let's be clear, Commander. You're not grateful. You're desperate. That's fine. Desperation makes people realistic. The bluntness shocked the council members present, but Vrax nodded slowly. You are correct. We are desperate. Can you help us? Maybe, Kowalski said. Show me everything. All your battle data, all your tactical analyses, everything. For 6 hours, Kowalski studied the information. She watched recordings of battles. She read reports. She asked hundreds of questions. The council officers tried to explain their sophisticated strategies and advanced weapons. Kowalski listened quietly. When they finished, she leaned back in her chair. You're fighting wrong, she said simply. Excuse me? Lyria bristled. Our tactics are based on thousands of years of military science. Exactly, Kowalski said. Military science, logic, predictability. The Vrexel learn from that. They're smart. But they're too smart. What do you mean? Vrax asked. Kowalski stood and pointed at the hologram of a Vrexel ship. They adapt based on patterns. They learn from previous encounters. They expect rational behavior. So we're going to be irrational. She pulled up a star map. Here's what we're going to do. See this system? There's a dying star in a debris field. We're going to lure them there. And then what? Dr. Quinn asked. Then we're going to make the star angry. Kowalski smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. The first human engagement happened at the Helion system. The human fleet was outnumbered 3-1. Council observers expected them to retreat or call for reinforcements. Instead, the humans flew directly into the debris field near the dying star. The Vrexel followed, sensing easy prey. What are they doing? A Zenthari observer shouted. They're trapped! Then the human ships fired, but not at the Vrexel. They fired at the star. Specialized weapons hit the star's corona, destabilizing it. The dying star erupted in a massive solar flare. The magnetic pulse caught the Vrexel ships in the debris field. Their adaptive shields couldn't adjust fast enough to both the debris impacts and the radiation burst. 300 Vrexel ships were destroyed in minutes. The human fleet slipped away through a carefully plotted safe corridor. They weaponized a star, Dr. Quinn whispered in awe. That's insane. That's humanity, Ambassador Chen replied calmly. The Vrexel learned from that battle. In the next engagement, they stayed away from stellar objects. They expected humans to use similar environmental tactics. The humans did something completely different. At the Carta system, the human fleet broadcasted strange signals. Not communications, not weapons fire. Just bizarre electromagnetic patterns mixed with organic frequencies. The Vrexel ships started behaving erratically. Their formations broke. Some ships attacked their own swarm members. What's happening? Vrax demanded. A human tactical officer explained. The Vrexel are partly biological. Their organic components have nervous systems. We're broadcasting signals that trigger anxiety responses in Earth insects. Turns out Vrexel biology has similar vulnerabilities. We're basically giving them panic attacks. That's psychological warfare, Lyria said, horrified. Yes, the human officer agreed. It is. The third engagement was even worse from the Council's perspective. Human ships managed to capture 3 Vrexel vessels intact using electromagnetic nets. They towed the ships to a human carrier. The Council officers thought the humans would study them. Instead, the humans infected the ships. They introduced modified Earth viruses that attacked the organic components of the Vrexel biology. The infected ships were then released back into space. When the Vrexel swarm reclaimed them, the virus spread. Within days, entire sections of the swarm were sick. The Vrexel ships moved slower, responded poorly, and some simply died in space. Lyria called an emergency meeting with Admiral Kowalski. You're using biological weapons, Lyria shouted. That's illegal under every treaty. That's a war crime. Kowalski looked at her calmly. Is it? Show me the treaty that covers this situation. Show me the law that applies during an extinction event. It's morally wrong. Maybe, Kowalski said. But we're winning. Isn't that what you wanted? Commander Vrax stepped between them. Admiral, I understand your tactics. But there are concerns. If you use methods that are too extreme. Too extreme? Kowalski interrupted. The Vrexel have consumed 47 systems. They've killed trillions. They don't negotiate, don't surrender, don't show mercy. And you're worried about us being too extreme? She walked to the window and pointed at the refugee ships. Every one of those vessels is full of people whose worlds were eaten. Their families gone. Their civilizations erased. And you want me to fight fair? The room was silent. I gave you a choice. Ambassador Chen said quietly. Win with monsters or lose with honor. You chose. Now you have to live with it. The human tactics continued to evolve. Every battle was different. Sometimes they used stealth and ambush. Sometimes they used overwhelming force. Sometimes they retreated for no apparent reason, only to strike from an unexpected angle. Commander Vrax sat in on human strategy meetings. What he saw disturbed him. Human officers argued constantly. They disagreed loudly about tactics. Junior officers questioned senior officers. There seemed to be no discipline at all. This is chaos, Vrax said to a human captain. The captain grinned. Exactly. Controlled chaos. You see, our enemy learns from patterns, so we make sure there is no pattern. Half the time, we don't even know what we're going to do until we do it. But how do you coordinate? We don't, not perfectly. We give general objectives and let individual commanders make decisions. Sometimes it's a mess, but it's a mess the Vrexel can't predict. The major battle came at the Kresh system. The Vrexel had gathered a massive fleet to push into Council Core territory. The human fleet was outnumbered 5-1. Admiral Kowalski made a decision that shocked everyone. She ordered 3 of her largest carriers to jump into the middle of the Vrexel formation. "She's sacrificing them," a Xanthari observer gasped. The 3 carriers broadcast on all frequencies. For humanity. For the future. The massive ships full of crew and fighters began taking tremendous damage. But the Vrexel focused all their attention on the carriers. They swarmed around them, wanting to consume such large prey. That's when the smaller human ships struck. While the Vrexel were distracted, hundreds of small, fast human vessels slipped through the swarm. They targeted the coordination nodes that the Quillians had identified. These were the ships that helped the swarm think as one. Precise strikes took out 17 coordination nodes in minutes. The Vrexel swarm lost cohesion. Ships stopped working together. The hive mind fractured. The 3 carriers were destroyed, but their sacrifice allowed the rest of the human fleet to tear through the confused swarm. It was brutal. It was costly. But it worked. The Vrexel began withdrawing for the first time since the war began. They retreated 3 systems, regrouping and adapting. The Council forces were jubilant. They were winning. But the victory felt hollow. Over 2,000 human crew members died on those carriers. Admiral Kowalski attended their memorial service personally. She stood before the holographic images of the dead and spoke quietly. "You gave your lives so others could live. The galaxy may not understand your sacrifice. They may call you monsters. But I know the truth. You were heroes." After the memorial, Kowalski went to her ready room. She found Commander Vrax waiting. "That was a brilliant tactic," Vrax said. "But it was also terrible." "Yes," Kowalski agreed, pouring herself a drink. "Welcome to human warfare. We win, but we bleed." "The Council is divided," Vrax said. "Some want to rein you in. They think you're becoming as dangerous as the Vrexel. Others want you to push harder, to follow the swarm to their home territory." Kowalski looked at him. "What do you want, Commander?" "I want my people to survive," Vrax said honestly. "I want the Vrexel gone, forever." "Then I have a proposal." Kowalski pulled up a star map. Dr. Quinn's team located where the Vrexel came from. Their home nest. It's here in dark space. She pointed to a region beyond Council territory. "We can track them back. We can take the fight to their origin point," Kowalski said. "But it will require something the Council has never done." "What?" "Complete destruction. We'll need to glass their homeworld from orbit. Sterilize it. Make sure they can never come back." Vrax stared at the map. "That would be genocide." "That would be survival," Kowalski corrected. "The Vrexel won't stop. They can't stop. They're driven to consume. So we have to end them completely or they'll keep coming back. The Council will never approve that." "I know," Kowalski said. "But they don't need." The emergency council session was called at midnight. Every member was required to attend. The chamber filled with tired, scared faces. They all knew why they were there. Admiral Kowalski stood at the center, her uniform crisp despite the late hour. Behind her, a hologram showed the Vrexel home territory. Deep in dark space, far from any Council world, a cluster of systems glowed red. "This is where they came from," Kowalski said. "Intelligence gathered from our battles shows the Vrexel originated here. This is their nest, their breeding ground. The source of the swarm." She pressed a button. The hologram zoomed in on a single planet. It looked organic, almost alive. The surface pulsed with strange light. "This is the Queen Mind world, the central intelligence that coordinates the entire swarm. Destroy this and the Vrexel lose their cohesion. They'll become disorganized, easier to defeat." Lyria stood up, her blue skin pale. "You want to attack their homeworld? You want to kill them all?" "Yes," Kowalski said simply. The chamber erupted. Voices shouted over each other. Some in support, some in horror. "It's genocide. It's survival. We're better than this." "Are we? Better but dead?" Dr. Quinn called for order. When the noise died down, they spoke carefully. "From a tactical standpoint, Admiral Kowalski is correct. Destroying the Queen Mind would end the war. But from an ethical standpoint, we're discussing the extinction of an entire species." "They're trying to extinct us," a Korthian general growled. "Why should we show them mercy they never showed us?" A young Xanthari diplomat stood shaking. "Because that's what separates us from them. We have morals. We have ethics. If we exterminate the Vrexel, how are we different from monsters? Ambassador Chen, who had been silent, finally spoke. You're different because you debated it. The Vrexel never questioned whether they should consume you. They just did. That's the difference. You have a choice. They don't. But choosing to exterminate them makes us guilty, the diplomat protested. Yes, Chen agreed. It does. That's the price. That's what I told you from the beginning. You want to survive? Then you carry the guilt. Lyria addressed Kowalski directly. Is there no other way? Can we not contain them? Build barriers? Keep them in their territory? No, Kowalski said firmly. They'll always find a way out. They'll always expand. They're driven by instinct to consume. The only way to stop them permanently is to eliminate the source. How long do we have to decide? Vrax asked. 3 days, Kowalski said. Our intelligence shows the Vrexel are regrouping for a massive push. If we wait longer, they'll be too strong. We strike now, or we lose our chance, the vote was called. It was the longest debate in council history. Speeches were made. Arguments presented. Ancient laws and ethics were discussed. In the end, the vote failed. 8 against, 4 in favor. Lyria stood to announce the decision. The council has voted. We will not authorize a strike against the Vrexel homeworld. Instead, we will continue defensive operations and look for alternative solutions. Admiral Kowalski stood quietly for a moment. Then she spoke, and her voice was cold. Very well. The council has made its decision. Now I will make mine. She turned to leave, but Lyria called out. Admiral, what does that mean? Kowalski looked back. It means the council lifted our military restrictions. That means Earth forces operate under wartime autonomy. We don't need your permission anymore. You can't, Lyria gasped. You can't just attack on your own. Watch us, Kowalski said and walked out. The chamber fell into chaos. Some council members demanded Kowalski's arrest. Others argued that humans were still technically within their rights. The debate raged for hours, but it changed nothing. The human fleet was already moving. Commander Varax found Kowalski in the hangar bay. She was preparing to board her shuttle back to her flagship. You're really doing this, he said, even without approval. Especially without approval, Kowalski replied. The council is too scared to make the hard choice. But that's fine. Humans are used to making hard choices. They'll punish you. After the war, there will be consequences. Let there be consequences, Kowalski said. At least there will be an after the war. That's more than we'd have otherwise. Vrax was quiet, then said, I'm coming with you. Kowalski looked surprised. The council won't like that. I don't care, Vrax said. I've lost everything to the Vrexel. My home, my family. I want to see this through. Besides, you'll need someone who knows council military protocols. You'll be disobeying orders. So will you, Vrax pointed out. Kowalski smiled slightly. Welcome aboard, Commander. The fleet that jumped into Vrexel space was not just human. 24 Korthian ships volunteered to join. A few Quillian science vessels came too, their crews unable to resist studying the Vrexel up close. But the council officially declared the mission unauthorized. Lyria made broadcasts condemning the attack. It didn't matter. The human ships kept moving. The journey to the Vrexel homeworld took 4 days. They traveled through dark space, regions not mapped by council charts. Strange things lived in the darkness. Sometimes ships disappeared without explanation. How did the Vrexel survive out here? A young human officer asked. They're predators, Kowalski said. This is their hunting ground. On the 5th day, they arrived at the Queen Mind world. It was horrible and beautiful at the same time. The planet pulsed with bioluminescent light. Massive organic structures grew from the surface, reaching toward space. Thousands of Vrexel ships orbited the world like antibodies protecting a body. Battle stations, Kowalski ordered. All ships, this is it. Make peace with whatever you believe in. Today we end this. The Vrexel detected them immediately. The entire swarm turned toward the intruders. More ships emerged from the planet's atmosphere. The enemy fleet was massive, easily 5,000 vessels. The human fleet had only 800 ships. We're outnumbered 6 to 1, Vrax observed. Good, Kowalski said. They'll be confident. Confident enemies make mistakes. The battle began with a fury unlike anything seen before. The Vrexel threw everything at them. Ships exploded. Weapons fire lit up the darkness. The humans fought with desperate courage, knowing this was their only chance. but the numbers were overwhelming. Human ships started falling. A dozen gone. Then 20. Then 50. Kowalski watched the tactical display. They were losing. "Admiral," her tactical officer said urgently, "we can't sustain these losses. We need to retreat." "No," Kowalski said calmly. "Push forward. All ships target the Queen Mind vessel. Everything we have." The Queen Mind vessel was enormous, 10 times the size of the largest human ship. It was the center of the Vrexel consciousness, the brain of the swarm. Human ships dove toward it, taking terrible damage. The Vrexel focused their entire defense around the Queen Mind. That's what Kowalski wanted. "Now," she whispered. "Do it now." Deep inside the human fleet, specialized ships had been hiding. They were disguised to look like damaged vessels. While the Vrexel focused on the frontal assault, these ships slipped through. They were antimatter haulers. Each one carried enough antimatter to destroy a moon. 3 of them made it through the Vrexel defenses. They locked their navigation toward the Queen Mind vessel. "All ships, emergency jump," Kowalski ordered.
"Get out now!"
The human fleet scattered, jumping to safety. But not everyone made it. Some ships were too damaged. Some were surrounded. Commander Varax watched in horror as dozens of ships stayed behind, buying time for others to escape. "Why aren't they jumping?" he demanded. "They can't," a human officer said quietly. "Their jump drives are damaged. They're holding the line so the rest of us can get away." One of those ships was the human carrier Defiance. Over 3,000 crew members were on board. They couldn't escape, so they chose to fight to the end. "This is the Defiance," the captain broadcasted. "To all human ships, it's been an honor. Tell Earth we did our duty." The 3 antimatter haulers reached the Queen Mind vessel. They rammed it at full speed. The explosion was visible across 3 star systems. The Queen Mind died instantly. The Vrexel swarm went silent, their coordination gone. Ships drifted without purpose. Some attacked each other. Some simply shut down. The Defiance and the other trapped ships were caught in the blast. They vanished in the light, along with the world below. The Queen Mind planet cracked apart. The organic structures withered and died. The Vrexel homeworld burned. When the light faded, there was only silence. On Kowalski's flagship, now safe several light years away, the crew stared at their screens. "Total casualties?" Kowalski asked, her voice hollow. 40% of our fleet destroyed, the tactical officer reported. 68 ships gone, 40,000 dead. 40,000. The number was staggering, but the Vrexel swarm was broken. Without the Queen Mind, they became disorganized. Easy prey for cleanup operations. The war was over. The galaxy was saved. But the victory felt like ash in their mouths. Commander Vrak stood beside Kowalski. "We won." "Yes," Kowalski said quietly. "We won. Why doesn't it feel like victory?" "Because we know what it cost," Kowalski said. 40,000 lives, an entire species exterminated. Our souls damaged. That's the price of survival." She looked at the memorial screen showing images of all the lost she. The human fleet returned to Council space 3 weeks after the battle. They came back different. Ships scarred by battle. Crews marked by what they had done and seen. The victory was real, but it didn't feel like a celebration. Concordia Prime was waiting for them. So was a political storm. The Council had split into 2 groups while the humans were gone. Some members wanted to honor the human sacrifice. Others wanted to put Admiral Kowalski and her officers on trial for war crimes. The arguments had raged day and night. When Kowalski's shuttle landed on Concordia Prime, she was met by security forces. They were polite but firm. "Admiral Kowalski, you are ordered to appear before the Council," the security commander said. "I expected that," Kowalski replied. "Let's get this over with." The Council chamber was packed. Every member was there, along with military observers, legal experts, and media from across the galaxy. Kowalski stood in the center alone. She wore her dress uniform, clean and proper. Her face showed no fear. Lyria spoke first. Her voice was cold and angry. "Admiral Kowalski, you disobeyed direct Council orders. You launched an unauthorized military strike. You destroyed an entire world and caused the extinction of a species. How do you plead?" "I don't plead," Kowalski said calmly. "I acted under wartime autonomy granted by the Council when you lifted the restrictions on human military forces. I did what was necessary to end the threat." "Necessary?" A Zinthari elder stood up, shaking with rage. "You committed genocide. You killed billions of Vrexel, And saved trillions of council citizens, Kowalski countered. The Vrexel would never have stopped. You know that. Your own scientists confirmed it. Dr. Quinn stood up reluctantly. Admiral Kowalski is correct. Our analysis showed the Vrexel were driven by biological imperative. They could not be negotiated with, could not be contained. Extinction or extermination were the only outcomes. That doesn't make it right, the elder shouted. No, Kowalski agreed quietly. It doesn't, but it makes it necessary. Sometimes there is no right choice, only the choice that allows life to continue. The chamber erupted into argument. Some supported Kowalski. Others demanded punishment. The debate went on for hours. Then Commander Vrax stood up. The room fell silent. Everyone knew Vrax had joined the human fleet against orders. I was there, Vrax said. His voice was steady and strong. I saw the battle. I watched human ships sacrifice themselves so that others could complete the mission. I saw 40,000 humans die to save a galaxy that treated them like dangerous animals. He looked around the chamber. 200 years ago, I fought against humans. I hated them. I thought they were monsters. I supported keeping them locked away. But I was wrong. Vrax walked toward the center where Kowalski stood. We asked them to save us. They told us there would be a price. We agreed, but we didn't really understand. Now we want to punish them because we don't like how they saved us. That makes us hypocrites, a Korthian admiral stood. Commander Vrax is right. We summoned the humans because we were desperate. We knew what they were. We knew how they fought. But we only wanted their results, not their methods. Another voice joined in. The Vrexel killed trillions of our people. They showed no mercy, no hesitation. The humans stopped them. That should matter. Lyria stood again. This is not about the victory. This is about how we achieved it. If we accept genocide as a tool, what does that make us? Ambassador Chen, who had been silent in the back, finally spoke. It makes you survivors. Nothing more, nothing less. She walked forward to stand beside Kowalski. You want to know the truth? Humans have been exactly where you are now. We've faced extinction. We've made terrible choices. We've done things that still haunt us centuries later. Chen looked at each council member. Earth's history is full of wars, genocides, and atrocities. We're not proud of it. But we learned from it. We learned that survival sometimes requires darkness. We learned that peace is built on hard sacrifices. So we should just accept that genocide is acceptable? Lyria challenged. No, Chen said. You should accept that you are no longer innocent. You made a choice when you unleashed us. You don't get to keep your moral purity and your survival. You have to choose. The debate continued for days. Legal experts argued about jurisdiction and authority. Philosophers debated ethics. Military leaders discussed precedent. Finally, a compromise was reached. It was proposed by Dr. Quinn, surprisingly. We cannot undo what was done, Quinn said. The Vrexel are gone. The galaxy is safer. But we also cannot ignore the methods used. I propose this. Humans are granted full council military status. They are no longer restricted. However, they must participate in joint command structures. Never again can one species make such a decision alone. And what of the Admiral? Someone asked. What punishment does she face? Commander Vrax stood again. I propose no punishment. Instead, I propose a memorial. We remember what was done. We remember the cost. We ensure future generations understand the price of survival. That is more powerful than any punishment. The vote was called. The proposal passed by a narrow margin, 8-4, with abstentions from species still undecided. Admiral Kowalski would face no charges. Humanity would gain full council status. A memorial would be built for all who died, including the Vrexel. But the restrictions were partially replaced with oversight. Humans would have a seat at the table, but not absolute freedom. It was a compromise nobody loved, but everyone could accept. After the vote, Kowalski stood on the observation deck looking at the stars. Commander Vrax joined her. How do you feel? Vrax asked. Tired, Kowalski said. Empty. 40,000 of my people died. I sent them to their deaths. That doesn't go away just because the council voted to forgive me. You saved the galaxy. I know, Kowalski said. But the faces of the dead still haunt me. They always will. That's the price of command. That's the price of survival. They stood in silence for a while. Then Vrax spoke again. I learned something from humans. You taught me that strength is not just about weapons or tactics. It's about will, about refusing to give up, even when everything seems hopeless. We're stubborn. Kowalski agreed with a slight smile. It's our best and worst quality. The galaxy will never see humans the same way again, Vrax said. You're not the restricted newcomers anymore. You're full partners now. That changes everything. I know, Kowalski said. I just hope we're ready for it. The memorial was built 3 months later. It was a massive structure orbiting Concordia Prime. Made of black crystal, it held the names of every being lost in the war. Human and alien. Council Species and Vrexel Ambassador Chen stood at the memorial's dedication ceremony. A young Xanthari approached her nervously. The young one had lost family in the war. Ambassador, the Xanthari said quietly, I need to ask you something. Go ahead, Chen said. Why did you fight for us? We treated your people poorly. We restricted you. We feared you. Why did you help us? Chen looked at the memorial, at all those names carved in crystal. Because when darkness comes, someone has to stand in the light's place. That's what humans do. We survive, and we protect others so they can survive too. Even when we don't deserve it. Especially then, Chen said. Humans learned a long time ago that holding grudges leads to extinction. Helping each other leads to survival. It's not complicated. The young Xanthari looked at the human ambassador with new eyes. Are humans heroes then? Chen laughed softly, but there was sadness in it. No, we're not heroes. Heroes are pure and noble. We're survivors. We do what needs to be done, carry the guilt, and keep moving forward. That's all. That sounds lonely. It is, Chen admitted. But it's better than being extinct. The dedication ceremony continued. Speakers from every species talked about the war, the victory, the cost. When it was Admiral Kowalski's turn to speak, she walked to the podium slowly. I won't give you a speech about glory or honor, Kowalski said. Those words feel hollow after what we've done. Instead, I'll tell you this. We faced extinction and we survived. We did terrible things to ensure survival. That's the truth. We own it, she gestured at the memorial. These names represent choices. Hard choices. Necessary choices. Choices that saved the galaxy but cost us pieces of our souls. Remember them. Remember what survival costs. And pray you never have to make such choices again. But if you do, Kowalski's voice grew stronger. If darkness comes again, know this. Humans will stand with you, not because we're heroes, not because we're saints, but because that's what we do. We survive together or we don't survive at all. The ceremony ended. People dispersed slowly, each carrying their own thoughts about the war and what it meant. Human ships now patrolled council space freely. They were no longer the caged wolves, but partners in peace. Other species watched them warily, with respect and lingering fear. In the depths of space where the Vrexel had once lived, there was only silence now. A reminder of what happens when monsters meet monsters. Ambassador Chen stood alone at the memorial as evening fell. She touched the crystal surface where human names were carved. We did what we had to, she whispered. I hope it was worth it. The stars didn't answer. They just shone on, indifferent and eternal. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. Sometimes the last option is the only option. Sometimes you have to unleash the humans. And sometimes survival means becoming the thing you fear. But life goes on. The galaxy keeps tea.